There was a faint smell of cinnamon in the kitchen. And bleach. That combination shouldn't make sense, but it did. It hit like a warning. Sweet layered over sterile. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the mug in the sink. Lipstick on the rim. Not hers. No. Mallory wore nude tones. This one was red. Crimson. The kind that left a stain behind even after a wipe. I opened the trash can. Clean. Too clean. Empty liner, freshly replaced, not a single wrapper or peel. She always left something, receipts, vitamin bottles, plastic wrap from her protein bars. But not today. Today it looked like a hotel bin. Something had been erased. Upstairs, the bedroom door was closed. That never happened during the day. And it was locked. I didn't knock. I just stared at it, my keys still in hand, half an apple rolling out of the grocery bag on the floor. It hit the tile, soft and unbothered, like the rest of my life, unaware of the impact coming. Then I heard it. The hum of her voice. Soft. Giggling. Not words, just a sound. Not meant for me. The floor creaked. A pause. I stepped back. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew the moment was bigger than me. Bigger than the 30 years of casseroles and anniversaries and insurance deductibles we called a marriage. It was the sound of a door between us, and the knowing that someone else was inside it. Not metaphorically. Physically. I didn't need to see him. I didn't want to. I just walked to the guest room, sat on the edge of the bed, and waited. 5 minutes. 10. I stared at the closet where our Christmas decorations were boxed away. I thought about how I built that bed frame. Every screw. Every scratch in the wood. I thought about the spare pillow that always smelled like her shampoo. Then the click. The door opened. 2 sets of footsteps. One light. One heavier. I didn't turn my head. Just listened as the front door opened, then closed. I waited again. 10 more minutes. And then, for the first time in 3 decades, I walked out the front door, not to go to the bank, or mow the lawn, or pick up mulch. This time, I left with nothing. Not a suitcase. Not a note. Not a fight. Just one sentence carved into the silence. Now she'll see what leaving really looks like. I didn't check into a hotel. Didn't crash at a friend's place. I drove to the hardware store parking lot and sat there for hours. Not because I had a plan. I didn't. But because I needed a place where no one would ask questions. Where the only smell was lumber and motor oil, and nobody knew my name. I watched people come and go. Contractors, retirees, a dad holding a kid on his shoulders, picking out outdoor lighting. I wondered how many of them were pretending too. How many had walked out of a house where another man had just sipped up his jeans. The irony? My phone kept buzzing. It was her. Mallory. Hey, are you at the bank? I think I left my charger in your car. Can you pick up almond milk if you're near the store? I'm making salmon later. Thought we could eat on the porch. Not a word about the fact that someone had just walked out of our bedroom. Like she knew I knew. Like we were 2 actors in the final scene of a play, saying lines while the credits already rolled. I didn't answer. I turned my phone off. And that's when I noticed the receipt still tucked between my seat and the console, the grocery run I just made. And at the bottom of that receipt, for some reason, this one line burned into my brain. Coffee filters, pack of 100. That's when it clicked. A month ago, I bought the same pack. And it was still full in the pantry. Neither of us drinks much coffee at home. We usually hit the cafe 2 blocks away. So why did we need another 100? I drove back home. Slowly. Cautiously. Not like a man coming back to argue, like a man observing a crime scene. She wasn't home when I arrived. Probably with him again. Probably thought I'd cooled off. I didn't go upstairs. Didn't open closets or drawers. I went straight to the garage. There, beneath a tarp beside the paint cans, I found what I was hoping I wouldn't, a small red suitcase. Still dusty on the outside but unmistakably moved recently. It wasn't one of ours. Inside, there were men's clothes. Expensive. Monogrammed. CRT. Calamar. Trask. So he was real. And worse, he was prepared to stay. I felt something tighten in my chest, but I didn't let it break me. I zipped it back up. Put it right where it was. Made everything look untouched. And then I walked back inside and brewed a pot of coffee. Why? Because I needed her to come home and see me there, sipping calmly from a mug, as if nothing had ruptured, as if the truth hadn't crawled across the carpet and whispered its name through the vents. She came home just before 7. I heard the key. Her footsteps. The slight hesitation when she saw the light on in the kitchen. She stepped in. Smiled. "You're home," she said. Like it was a good thing. I poured another cup. Thought we'd have coffee on the porch. Like you said. That threw her off. She blinked. Oh, yeah, sure. She sat, took the mug I handed her, looked out over the yard. The cicadas were already humming, and I just stared at her, not the woman I married, but the woman who smiled in the face of a lie so big it should have burned the air. After a long silence, I said, "You know what's funny about coffee filters?" She laughed softly. "No, what? They're designed to catch the filth, trap what doesn't belong, all the bitter stuff, but only if you know what to look for." She froze, just a second too long, and that's when I knew the game had shifted. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was testing how long I'd stay. She was about to find out. She didn't drink the coffee. That was the first tell. She held the mug with both hands like she always did, even smiled, that closed lip, wide-eyed smile she used when lying to her boss about being almost done with a deadline, but the coffee just sat there, steaming quietly between us on the porch table. She didn't sip, didn't even pretend to. She thought I didn't notice. That's the thing about living with someone for 3 decades. You notice everything. The way her left thumb twitches when she's nervous. The way her tone goes high-pitched when she's improvising. The way she subtly turns her body toward the door when she wants an escape route. And tonight, she did all 3. She asked me about my day. I said I'd painted the hallway. She said, "You did," as if she wasn't upstairs hours earlier with a man who stepped over the paint tray on his way out of my marriage. She complimented the coffee's aroma. I nodded, told her I'd used the new filters. That was when her eyes narrowed just a fraction. Not enough for an average person to notice, but I'm not average. I've been trained by years of Sunday brunches with her mother to spot micro-expressions before they turn into full-blown accusations. Mallory changed the subject. "We should take a trip," she said. "A trip?" "Yeah, maybe Asheville. That cabin with the copper tub. You loved that place." I looked at her like she'd grown a second face. Did she forget she'd booked rooms with him in that exact cabin just 2 months ago? Or did she think I didn't know? Was this part of her strategy, overwrite my memories with hers? I didn't answer. Instead, I excused myself, walked into the kitchen, and stared at the knife block. "Here's something you should know. I have a rule. I never leave dirty knives in the sink. Ever. Not once in 30 years. I always clean and return them immediately. But tonight, one was missing. The chef's knife. The one I bought her last Christmas after she said dull blades ruined the art of cooking. It wasn't in the dishwasher. Not in the sink. Not on the cutting board. It was gone. And that's when I realized something else had shifted. She was planning. Not reacting. Not apologizing. Not confessing. Planning. I walked back out. Sat down across from her. She was scrolling through her phone now, fake casual. I asked her, "How's Callum?" Her finger stopped mid-scroll. There. There it was. That second of complete stillness. Her mouth barely open. Her chest pausing between breaths. She didn't ask who I meant. She knew. Her silence screamed guilt. Then she said, softly, like a child asked if they'd broken something, "You went through my things?" I laughed. Just once. Dry. Hollow. "No, Mallory." I listened through the vents. She stood up. Too fast. "You don't get to spy on me, Eldon," she said, voice shaking. "That's control. That's manipulation. That's survival," I cut in. "And by the way, he left his suitcase in the garage. Tell him to be more careful next time." Her face changed then. No more fake confusion. No soft denial. Her lips pressed into a tight, bloodless line. Her chin lifted. "He's staying here," she said. No apology. No remorse. Just staying here. As if I were the one with the suitcase. I stood too. Quietly. Slowly. Not with me in it. And I walked into the house, into our bedroom, packed exactly 1 duffel bag. Essentials only. I left everything else. The suit she'd picked. The watch she gave me for our 20th. The cufflinks with our initials. Symbols of a life that clearly meant more to me than to her. But before I left, I walked into the kitchen one more time. Opened the dishwasher. And there it was, the chef's knife. Still wet. Still warm. She'd hidden it. Then unhidden it. Just in case I came looking. Mallory had started playing chess. Problem was, I'd already flipped the board. I didn't leave the house that night. Not really. I took the duffel, drove 3 blocks to the old train station parking lot, and sat there under a broken lamp for almost 5 hours. The duffel sat beside me on the passenger seat, unopened. I didn't check into a motel. I didn't go to my brother's. I just sat there with the window cracked and the heater off, listening to the sound of my own pulse like it was the ticking of a bomb. I could have driven away. I could have gone anywhere, But part of me wasn't finished. Not with her, and not with the house. There was something I still needed to see. A confirmation, maybe. A final nail. Some men get obsessed with proof. Not because they don't believe what they've seen, but because they want it to hurt less by hurting completely. So just before 4 a.m., I drove back. The street was dark. Mallory always left the porch light on, but not tonight. The windows were blacked out. Her car was in the driveway, parked crooked. Not like her. I parked half a block away, walked slowly, deliberately, like a man heading to his own funeral but refusing to wear black for it. When I stepped onto the porch, I paused. The front door was unlocked. She never left the front door unlocked. Ever. I walked in quietly, not bothering to flip a light switch. My eyes had adjusted to the dark anyway. The house felt altered, like something had shifted in the walls. The air was heavy. Not smoky, not musty, just occupied. You know that feeling when someone's been in your room while you were gone, even if nothing looks moved? That's what this was. Only I wasn't gone. I was supposed to be here. I moved through the hallway like I was inspecting an old memory for holes. Every photograph on the wall looked staged now. Every trinket, every candle props in a life she'd clearly stopped living with me months ago. Then I saw it. The suit jacket, draped lazily over the arm of the couch. Not mine. A dark navy, expensive wool. Faint cologne that wasn't mine. Deeper, muskier, overconfident. Like the man who wore it knew he was invading someone else's life and felt no shame. Callum had stayed. While I sat in a freezing car with stale breath fogging the windshield, he'd poured himself a drink in my living room. Slept in my bed. Or maybe didn't sleep at all. I walked past the jacket. Past the kitchen. To the back door. Opened it slowly. And there it was, the trash bin. Tuesday morning was pickup day. Mallory had always been precise about it. Labeled everything, broke down boxes, rinsed cans. But this time, the lid was half open. Sloppy. And inside, black trash bags tied too tightly, and on top, a crumpled sheet. I reached in and pulled it out. Pale lavender. Our guest sheets. The ones we used when her sister visited once a year. Only they weren't from the guest room. These had my initials stitched in the corner. From our bed. I didn't even need to open the bags. I knew what I'd find. Wine bottles. Condoms. Takeout containers from a place I'd never been, probably some boutique fusion spot Callum thought made him seem edgy. But I opened them anyway. Because I'm that kind of man. The kind who wants to know every damn detail, so I never question what I did next. The last bag had something odd. A torn photo. Ripped right through the center. My face was gone, the edge of my hand still visible beside hers, but the rest shredded. She'd thrown it away like evidence. Or maybe he did. Maybe Callum didn't like staring at the man whose house he now walked through in boxer shorts and morning breath. I sat down on the steps behind the garage and laughed. Laughed like a madman in a church. Because it was Tuesday. And Tuesday used to mean trash. But now it meant something else entirely. It meant she wanted me gone before sunrise. Too late. I was still here. And now, I had a plan. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I called in using the most emotionless voice I could manage, said something vague about family stuff, and turned off my phone. Not because I was afraid someone would call me, but because I knew she might. And I didn't want to hear that voice. Not yet. Not until I was ready. Instead, I sat in my truck outside a place I never thought I'd visit again. Kinnison and Avery Investigative Services. Just a boring brick office between a laundromat and a vape shop. No sign. No windows. Just a rusted buzzer and a camera above the door. 10 years ago, I'd used them to vet a business partner who ended up being clean. I remember thinking, these guys are paranoid. Now, that paranoia felt like comfort. An hour later, I'd handed over everything, the hotel reservations, the receipts, the text I'd screenshotted from her old backup drive, even the trash bag photo of our torn wedding picture. I expected the guy behind the desk, Brennan, to look surprised. But he didn't. He just asked me one question. Do you want proof? Or do you want strategy? I blinked. What's the difference? Proof tells you what she did. Strategy tells you what to do next. That hit harder than I wanted it to. I said both. He nodded once, professional as a surgeon. Give me 48 hours. When I left the office, it was still early. My hands were shaking, and not from caffeine. From restraint. From the 1,000 possible things I could have done and didn't. I could have barged back into the house and screamed. Could have slashed Callum's tires. Could have posted the photos to her stupid book club Facebook page. But I didn't. Because I wasn't here for drama. I was here for ending. I drove home slowly. The streets looked different now, colder. As if the whole neighborhood knew. I imagined every lawn decoration, every mailbox, every porch light watching me, whispering, he still doesn't know everything. When I pulled into the driveway, her car wasn't there. Good. I walked inside. Went straight to the bookshelf in our living room. Fourth shelf down, behind a row of full literary paperbacks she only bought to impress her friends, was a small, antique box. Oak with brass corners. She thought I never noticed it. She was wrong. Inside, a red velvet pouch and a stack of folded letters tied with green string. I'd never opened them before. Not once. But today wasn't about respecting boundaries. I untied the string. Letters from him. Not emails. Not texts. Actual handwritten letters, like some cheap Nicholas Sparks imitation. Pages of him talking about energy and magnetic souls, and how she deserved someone who met her frequency. I nearly laughed out loud at the idiocy of it. But then I saw the last page. He'd drawn something at the bottom. A symbol. A tiny black infinity sign drawn with such care it almost looked like a tattoo stencil. And below it, in her handwriting. For the next time. Left side, under my ribs. I stood there, frozen. It wasn't just emotional. It wasn't just betrayal. It was permanence. She got inked for him. 30 years with me, no tattoos. I once joked about getting our wedding date etched on our ankles. She said tattoos were too desperate. Now I realized what she really meant. Not desperate, just not for me. She'd saved the commitment for someone else. It felt like acid in my chest. But I didn't cry. Not anymore. Instead, I opened her laptop. I knew the password. It hadn't changed in years, her mother's birthday. I scanned the desktop, clicked through her folders. At first, just clutter. Then one called New Start. Inside were spreadsheets. Budgets. A list titled, Things to Handle Before August. Sell the second car. Talk to Mark about stocks. Transfer retirement account. All of it was under her name. Not ours. August. That was 2 months from now. She wasn't just leaving me. She was phasing me out. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the screen. That was the moment the grief died. I don't know what was left. Not rage. Not revenge. Just clarity. She'd already left in her mind. Now it was just paperwork. But what she didn't know was, I'd already started rewriting that paperwork. She wanted August. She wouldn't last till June. The following Thursday started like nothing had happened. The sky was clear. The air smelled like cut grass and car exhaust. I stood in the kitchen, slicing an apple with the same knife she'd tried to hide days earlier. The irony didn't escape me. I even smiled a little, not because anything was funny, but because I finally knew something she didn't. Mallory walked into the kitchen wearing one of my old flannel shirts, the one she used to steal when she missed me during business trips. I wondered if Callum knew where that shirt came from. Probably not. That was the thing about people like him. They never cared about the history of what they were touching. She poured herself coffee and said something meaningless about the weather. I nodded. I told her I might take the day off. She didn't ask why. That was the shift. She'd stopped pretending to care, and I'd stopped needing her to. But what she didn't notice was the small flash drive in my hand as I stirred my own cup. It was already loaded with everything I'd found. The letters, the hotel logs, even screenshots of the budgeting spreadsheets. All of it neatly organized in folders. I'd already sent a copy to my lawyer, just in case. She kissed my cheek on her way out the door. That made my skin crawl, but I kept my face still. Calm. I even said, drive safe. I was learning to lie too. As soon as she left, I opened her laptop again. I didn't need much more. I had what I needed, but something pulled me back. A compulsion, maybe. Or instinct. What I found that day changed everything. The laptop had a synced document that wasn't there the day before. A cloud file. One she hadn't stored locally. I guess she'd forgotten the automatic sync feature I helped her set up 2 years ago, back when we still solved problems together. The file was titled simply, Schedule. Inside was a color-coded chart. Flights. Hotels. Transfer deadlines. One date was circled in red with a label next to it. Final conversation with Eldon. Must remain controlled. No sudden emotion. No details about Callum. My full name, in a list like I was an errand. But the worst part? There was a bullet point that read, Important. Wipe devices after July 3rd. Use factory reset. Don't forget backup deletes too. That was the date she planned to erase me. Digitally, financially, emotionally. A factory reset of a life. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was replacing me. Replacing everything we'd built, from the mortgage to the guest password on the Wi-Fi. Callum had become her new default setting. That was the moment I stopped being the abandoned husband. I became the witness to a crime scene that hadn't gone public yet. I didn't delete the document. I didn't even move it. I simply made a second backup, saved it in a hidden folder deep inside a folder marked Recipes, Do Not Delete. I went outside to water the plants, trimmed the hedges, smiled at a neighbor walking her dog. The world kept moving. The sky still blue, the air still sweet, but I was no longer part of it. I was observing everything from the other side of the glass. And just before noon, my phone lit up with a message from the investigator. Got something. Let's talk today. Not by phone. I met Brennan at a diner across town. He wore sunglasses indoors and carried an envelope like we were in a Cold War thriller. He didn't waste time, just pushed the envelope across the table and said, "This isn't just an affair. It's worse." Inside were photos. Mallory and Callum weren't just sleeping together. They were signing something. At a bank. Together. On camera. The timestamp matched a withdrawal from one of our joint accounts, a savings account I'd almost forgotten about because we hadn't touched it in years. The amount withdrawn wasn't huge, but it was specific. $27,600. I knew that number. It was the remaining balance on the down payment for our future lake cabin. A dream we'd shelved 5 years ago after her father passed. She hadn't shelved it. She'd just switched co-signers. I looked at Brennan. So she's buying a place. With him. He nodded. Not just buying. She listed you as unaware. Legally speaking, she's opened the door to asset fraud. You still have time. But not much. I didn't finish my sandwich. I left it there, half-eaten, like the rest of my life. And as I drove back, the same question kept echoing in my head. What kind of woman builds a new life on the bones of the old one while the old one's still breathing? The kind who thinks you'll never wake up. She was about to learn otherwise. That evening, I returned home before her and turned off every light in the house except one. The small lamp in the hallway. The one with the cracked shade she said she'd replace, but never did. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't pour myself a drink. I just sat in the living room, in silence, listening. At 6:42 p.m., I heard the garage door rumble. She came in humming. A song I didn't recognize. Something soft, upbeat. Maybe something Callum played for her in that shiny red car. He didn't park near the house anymore. She didn't see me right away. She walked to the fridge, took out a bottle of chilled white wine, and pulled the cork with ease like it was part of her evening yoga routine. She turned around, and only then did she freeze. I didn't say a word. I let her speak first. "Oh, hey," she said, breath catching. "Didn't know you were home." I watched her carefully. The tone wasn't guilt. It was calculation. Her eyes weren't looking at my face. They were scanning, reading my posture, my breath, the way I was gripping the armrest. She was trying to determine whether I knew. She didn't realize I'd already seen the footage, already read the documents, already knew about the joint withdrawal, the fake signatures, the staged disappearance of our shared savings. "I left work early," I said calmly. "Oh." Her voice wavered. "To water the plants," I added. A long pause. Her eyes twitched toward the patio door, where the garden sat untouched. I stood slowly, not menacingly, just deliberately. She took a step back, as if my stillness scared her more than shouting ever could. "I want to show you something," I said. I walked past her to the upstairs hallway, and she followed, hesitant, still holding the wine glass like a shield. I led her to the guest room, opened the closet, reached behind a stack of linens, and pulled out a framed photo. It was from 10 years ago. The lake. A weekend we barely remembered. We were younger, sunburned, happy. I was holding her by the waist. She was laughing, eyes closed. She stared at it. "What's this about?" she whispered. "That cabin," I said. "We gave up on it. Remember?" She said nothing. "Funny how some people don't forget dreams," I added. "They just reassign them." Mallory's mouth opened, but no words came out. I let the silence stretch. Then I walked to the nightstand, opened the drawer, took out the envelope Brennan had given me. I didn't hand it to her. I just laid it on the bed and said, "I've seen everything. The letters, the file named schedule, the signature on the withdrawal, even the photo of you and him at First National." Now her face changed. The mask cracked. Something beneath it flickered, not panic, not guilt. Relief. And that was worse. "You knew," I said. "You've known for a long time this would all come out. That's why you never denied it." She nodded once. Slowly. "I didn't want it to be like this," she said, quiet but sharp. Yes, you did, I replied. You wanted it clean. No scandal. No fight. Just me dissolving quietly. You wanted to outlive the guilt by outrunning it. Then I walked her downstairs. Not with yelling. Not with cruelty. With cold, precise intention. I took out a folder from the drawer by the piano. Inside were 2 sets of papers. One was a separation agreement I'd had my lawyer prepare overnight, excluding her from all postmarital gains. The second was a letter. Not to her, but to her boss, laying out how her recent travel expenses weren't just unapproved, but tied to personal trips with someone who wasn't me, paid with a corporate card we both shared through my consulting business. She stared at both, stunned. You'll sign the first one, I said, and I won't send the second. She blinked, pale. You wouldn't do that. I raised my eyebrows. You gambled that I was weak, that I wouldn't respond, that I'd collapse. You forgot who taught you how to lie without blinking. I've just been quiet, but I've never been stupid. She looked down. You're blackmailing me, she whispered. No, I replied. I'm reclaiming the part of myself you tried to edit out. Then I pulled out my final card. From the coat closet, I brought out a small square mirror, the one we used to hang in the hallway before the renovation. I held it up in front of her. Look, I said. She hesitated, then met her reflection. That's who you did this to. Not me. Him. The version of yourself that could have walked away clean. But you chose deception over honesty, performance over courage. Now live with that. She didn't say a word as I walked out, but I saw it, the tiniest shift in her eyes. It wasn't regret. It was fear, and that meant the tide had turned. The paperwork was signed within 48 hours. She didn't fight it, didn't even call a lawyer. Whether it was fear, guilt, or exhaustion, I didn't care. All that mattered was the ink on those pages and the slow, deliberate exit of a person I'd shared 3 decades with. Mallory packed her things on a Friday. Not everything, just what she needed, what she could carry. She didn't look at me as she left. She didn't slam the door. She didn't cry. She just closed it behind her like someone stepping out of an old life and into a newer, shinier one. I didn't follow. I didn't call. And I didn't collapse. Instead, I stood in the center of the living room, the same room where our kids used to build blanket forts, where we hosted 24 Thanksgivings, where I once danced with her barefoot while a storm rattled the windows and I exhaled. Not from grief. From release. That evening, I took down every photo, every frame. I didn't burn them. I didn't smash them. I simply boxed them, labeled the box then, and placed it in the attic. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need chaos. I just needed space. Over the next few weeks, the house began to change. I replaced the curtains, painted over the hallway, this time a warm amber instead of that cold sage green. I moved my office to the sunroom where the plants get the best light. And I started waking up at 6 a.m., not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because I liked the sound of birds before the traffic kicked in. Because I'd forgotten what mornings felt like when they weren't filled with tension and silence and secrets. Then something strange happened. One afternoon, while walking through the local farmer's market, I bumped into a woman holding a stack of books. She dropped one. I picked it up. The old-fashioned kind of moment you'd expect to see in a cheap romantic comedy. I almost laughed. Her name was Celia. She taught music to second graders. We talked about figs. Of all things, figs. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt light. Like a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying had finally floated off. We didn't exchange numbers that day. I wasn't ready. But a week later, I saw her again. Same market, same smile. This time we shared coffee. She asked what I did. I told her about numbers, spreadsheets, and what it feels like to lose a home while still living in it. She didn't flinch. She just said, "You seem like someone who finally has room to breathe." She was right. And I do. Last week, I drove past that old lake property, the one Mallory tried to buy behind my back. It's still on the market. Weeds taller than the gate, dock half-rotted. A dream left to rot. I didn't stop, because now I have new dreams. Dreams that don't include secrets in closets or conversations through vents. Dreams that begin with me, not her. And here's the truth I never expected to say out loud. It took her betrayal to bring me back to myself. 30 years together. 30 seconds to walk away. And now, I'm finally free.